Hazel, I can't hear you.
There we go. Yeah, I'm not so good at the multitasking thing, but I just wanted to thank you and say, you know, how you always make everything so fun. So thank you so much. Yeah, and you know, with all the beauty that we see around us in autumn, we feel within ourselves a real shift, you know, and for me, the autumn, it always signifies a test. You know, it's like part of me remembers going back to school, right? And so there's this shift that happens, right, from the wildness of summer. But we're really asking ourselves, you know, is our inner strength there? Can it hold us up when the support of nature is withdrawn? Because at the time of harvest, we have to work, don't we? You know, we have to work to remain inwardly awake. We have to work to fashion our own self-consciousness. You know, the life cycle of the earth really, you know, Steiner talks about that it really begins in earnest as it awakens in the autumn. Just like the human being taking that first big in-breath at birth. And so, yeah, many cultural traditions recognize this and have named autumn as the time to celebrate the beginning of a new year. And around the end of the 19th century, humanity experienced a huge shift in consciousness. So we have these little milestones in the cycles of the season, and then we have these bigger cycles, right? And the end of the 19th century, Steiner talks about 1879 as being an important date when there was a shift with Michael coming in as the time spirit, bringing in that energy that we're going to talk about today. What does that mean? This being coming in and creating a certain mood. And also in 1899, it was the end of what we call the Kali Yuga. So the end of the Dark Ages. So this shift is happening for humanity. And right around that time, the fixed date of September 29th came to be called the feast day of Saint Michael and all the heavenly hosts. So the old legends always preface the famous story of the battle against the dragon, which I'm going to give you a little synopsis of that in a minute. But always before that, you get this enumeration of the 9 angelic realms, with Michael standing before us as the king and herald of all the hierarchies. And so as we strive to create this festival of the future now, we're invited to contemplate these angelic choirs that we can look to our future selves, that we may think here and now that step by step, we can courageously build our own strong and steady rung on the ladder of evolution, teaching us to count the human being as the 10th hierarchy. And it is to this that this mighty sun being, Michael, directs our gaze. So spiritual science has given us many indications about this being called Michael. And for today, I always like to start by looking at the name, Michael. It's a question, for it literally means who is like God. And questions are good, right? They help us think. But how can we possibly experience this mighty being? Well, we can sense forces happening all around us. We can sense those shifts within ourselves, but we see it in the meteor showers, right? We're in the midst of the Orionids right now, right at the tail end. And with this amazing cosmic gift, we witness the power of Michael behind the shooting stars, strengthening our blood with cosmic iron, waging war there against anxiety, fear, and hate. creating an inner process that penetrates our earthly thoughts with these cosmic thoughts, that our hearts may begin to have thoughts. So I really like to make a, like a small attempt at understanding what spiritual science calls imaginative cognition or heart thinking. And we can start again by asking the question, how can humanity, the Earth citizen, become once more a citizen of the cosmos? Well, it certainly won't be by the intellect, right? It won't be by head thinking alone. For in the intellect, we're isolated from the world, isolated from the cosmos, because, I mean, really, come on, everybody has their own head, right? and in that head, we have our own thoughts, right? We think we're so great. We think about this, we think about that. But heart thinking, it's not like that. Imaginative cognition takes us further on our evolutionary journey. So this mysterious German word, Gemut, which Rudolf Steiner uses to describe heart thinking, really means something like the mind warmed by a loving heart and stimulated by the soul's imaginative power. The mind warmed. How can we warm our mind? With a loving heart. And that stimulates the soul's imaginative power. So yeah, these pictures that we see outside of us, we can germinate them within us, and then we can make them our own. And we can create our own pictures that we don't see out there in nature. That's our work. We can be creators too. Because, if we're not dependent solely on our head, but on this rhythmic system, then that brings us back to, then we belong. We feel like we belong again. We're beings of the cosmos, because in the cosmos, that's where the rhythm holds sway, right? You've heard of this music of the spheres, right? Where everything's in sync, everything's harmonious, in perfect balance. But of course, there's always the X factor, right? There's always something to come in and, make the song a little bit dissonant, and then that's okay, right? The major seventh or the minor seventh, that's like this, it wakes you up. And so we have to have those things once in a while. So, get ready, get comfortable, because I'm going to give you the little story of Michael and the dragon. So, once upon a time, before time, another high spiritual being, standing in his assigned place in the choir, looked up the ladder to the highest hierarchies and had the thought, sure would be nice to be God. I'd look so fine sitting up there with the thrones. Oh, I sure would love to sing something different. A solo, that's what I need. Instead of just being here, part of the rest of the choir, maybe I'll just skip the line. Well, needless to say, Michael, along with some of the other progressive spiritual beings, felt the commotion coming from this agitated, selfish thinking, and tried to reassure the wannabe that yes, someday they will all have full freedom to hit the high notes. But you know what? Hey, that time has not come yet. The time is not yet ripe. But this deviant diva would have none of it. So with some other minions, he endeavored to cut the line and storm the gates of heaven. So Michael, as choir master, guardian of the cosmic intelligence, the power or intelligence that keeps the rhythms of the cosmos intact, had to step in to hold the fort. With the help of the other righteous angels, they cast the troublemakers out of heaven in order to keep the music of the spheres harmonious. And ironically, because this high being wanted to rise higher before his time, he actually fell back, became hardened and densified. And through this hardening, taking on what we would call, using the language of imagination, the supersensible form of a serpent or dragon. So that's, in a little nutshell there, that's our famous story, right? But you might ask, where is the dragon now? Well, spiritual science tells us that the dragon now lives within the human being. The outer cosmic conflict of Michael and the dragon was transferred to the inner human being. Because only in human nature can the dragon now find his sphere of action. But fear not, my friends. Because of that, Michael now works with us to fight the dragon within our human nature. And this gives humanity the opportunity, right? Sometimes we need to get pushed and be brave to face an opportunity, and we have it here to take up the cosmic intelligence into our heart thinking. And really, to do this, we have to live into these experiences that these smaller cycles of the season give us, allowing us to tread the initiatory path of the new mysteries. So today, we look across the circle to the time of the spring equinox, right? We had the fall equinox, we can look across and remember the time of sprouting, the time when the resurrection forces of Eastertide grow in us. And we can remember what we took in then and re-experience spring. And then we can call up in ourselves these resurrection forces because, now, right now, during the fall is when we really need them, right? They're given to us as a gift in the spring. It's now that we have to call them up. Using our imaginative cognition, we can call that up, not just for ourselves, to remind ourselves that we are immortal, that we don't die with the seasons, but to also we're activating the liberation of the elemental beings from the dying plants. Right? This is our job. This is our responsibility. And in turn, it fortifies us for the dark of the year. And does anybody else find it an open secret that we call autumn the fall? I mean, doesn't it remind you of the fall from paradise, right? When these death forces came in, right? We can also look to the ancient stories of Persephone going into the underworld. And we could do a whole lecture series around these old mysteries. So many beautiful gems there in those myths. And it's no mere coincidence, right? So a true Michaelmas festival must be a deed of human heart thinking, a gemut event that can experience the cycle of the seasons as a living reality. So this is what I wanted to bring today. This idea that heart thinking is the modern antidote to the dragon. Heart thinking, which empowers our will to consciously receive sense impressions, to let the spiritual sun in, the source of the resurrection forces, which enable the human intelligence to unite again with the cosmic intelligence. So, right, we don't kill the dragon, we tame it. We can use that power. There's a lot of power there in that dragon. Let's use it, right? And our work today is to really begin to be part of this transformation. Don't let the transformation transform us, but be part of it, to tame the intellect, to create a union of head and heart. So, yeah, we're gonna ask you to do a little work now and think about maybe a time where those Michaelic forces were stirred up within you, a time where you had to face something and be brave. And I'm going to have Nancy talk a little bit more about that to get you in the mood and while I set up the breakout rooms here.
Thank you, Hazel. We're going to break out in groups of 3, like we did last week. And these breakout opportunities are wonderful times to listen. So just share and listen. And we'll take about 3 minutes apiece, so 3, 6, 9. In 10 minutes, we'll certainly be back. And Hazel's going to give us our room placements. And join your.
I think it's happening. Is it happening? I have to stop the recording.